They never tell you how fast a normal school day can turn terrifying. 3 real lockdown stories prove it. The first one starts on what felt like a completely ordinary Friday in calculus. 7th period, the weekend almost here, spring break right around the corner. Everyone in the room was restless. There wasn't even a test, unlike some of the other classes that day, so our teacher, who was always pretty easygoing, just opened up Sporkle and started playing trivia games with us. We were halfway through a random brand logo quiz on Sporkle, laughing every time someone guessed wrong, when the room changed in a heartbeat. I still remember the exact second it happened. Right after my friend shouted Adidas, the intercom cracked and the dean's voice came through, sharp and shaky. "This is not a drill. Lockdown now." Those words hit harder than any alarm. My stomach dropped, my skin tightened, and a wave of chills ran up my arms. For a moment, none of us moved. Then our teacher, who was usually the calmest guy on the planet, snapped into action. His face went pale as he killed the lights and waved us to the far corner like he'd practiced it 1,000 times. Desks scraped the floor, someone let out a small cry, and the sudden silence that followed was louder than anything I'd ever heard. You could feel the fear bouncing off the walls as we crouched together, hearts pounding, trying to breathe without making a sound, every second stretching like an hour while we waited to find out if someone dangerous was already in the building. The silence in that dark room felt like it could break glass. 2 minutes dragged by, every tick of the clock louder than the last, and then even the faint electric hum from the panel in the back stopped cold. The power was gone. No lights, no sound, just the heavy air of a building holding its breath. We traded quick, wide-eyed looks, and that's when it hit all of us. This wasn't some drill. Another few endless minutes passed before a noise sliced through the quiet. A man's voice, raw and furious, echoed down the hallway, screaming words we couldn't make out at first. The sound sent a chill through my spine like ice water. 2 girls broke down, their sobs small but sharp, and that made the rest of us even more tense. Then the voice grew clearer, closer, filled with rage. Metal clanged as he slammed the lockers, the echo rattling through the walls. He shouted over and over, each word harder to hear but impossible to forget. "I'll kill all of you." The pounding matched the rhythm of our hearts, each hit a threat, each shout a reminder that the door between us and whoever he was might not be enough. Every breath felt dangerous as we huddled tighter, praying he would pass without finding us. The second the pounding hit our door, every breath in the room froze. My chest tightened so hard it hurt, and for the first time I truly thought this might be it. Our teacher pressed a finger to his lips, eyes wide and fierce, and we all clamped down on any sound. I could hear the small gasps of my classmates and the soft whimper of someone trying not to cry. Then the heavy thuds shifted from the lockers to right where we sat, the door shaking with each violent hit. A sharp scream ripped through the dark. One of the girls couldn't hold it in anymore, and that single cry seemed to push the stranger into a frenzy. The banging grew harder, faster, the handle rattling like it might snap off. He shouted over and over, voice cracked and furious, "Open up!" 2 girls were sobbing openly now, their hands over their mouths, and I could feel the floor vibrate under my shoes. Time slowed into a blur of heartbeats and pounding fists, every second stretching into forever. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the noise started to move away. The pounding turned to distant crashes, his scream echoing down the hall until it faded into silence. We stayed frozen, barely breathing, listening for anything that might mean he was coming back. The weight of that moment pressing down like the entire building was holding its breath with us. About 10 minutes later, though it felt like half an hour with our nerves stretched to breaking, the intercom crackled again and the dean's voice filled the room. Everyone stiffened, waiting for the worst, but instead he gave us an update we could barely believe. He said a man who seemed mentally unstable had slipped into the building and attacked the woman working the front desk, forcing her to run outside screaming for help. No one knew if he was carrying a weapon. Back then, our school had no cameras, no security guards, nothing to stop someone from walking right in, and hearing that sent a fresh wave of fear through the class. The dean explained that staff had searched every hallway and classroom and couldn't find the man anywhere. The idea that he might still be hiding nearby made the walls feel like they were closing in. Still, the dean calmly told teachers to keep doors locked and continue with lessons as if we could somehow go back to normal. We stayed in that dim classroom, lights off, every creak in the hallway making us jump. Our teacher tried to speak like everything was fine, but his eyes kept flicking to the door. Even after we were told to carry on, none of us could focus on anything but the thought of a stranger still lurking somewhere in the school. The part that still gives me chills came later that night. One of the janitors working the late shift said he found the man curled up in a storage closet near the back of the school, like he'd been hiding there the whole time. People whispered that a heavy revolver, a .44 Magnum, was sticking out of his pocket. The janitor must have startled him or maybe left the door open, because by the time an officer got there, the man had vanished into the dark. No one in my class ever heard a clear answer about what happened after that. We never got a name, never knew if he was arrested or if he's still out there somewhere. I tried to believe he finally got the help he clearly needed, but every time I think about that night, I remember how close we all came to something far worse, and how quickly an ordinary school day can turn into a nightmare you never forget. My school split lunch into 2 shifts. First lunch was for all the 6th graders and part of the 7th grade, and second lunch was for the rest of the 7ths and all the 8th graders. The lockdown happened on a gray October day, the kind where the sky hangs low and the air feels heavy. Rain tapped against the windows as first lunch started, a steady sound that somehow made everything feel even quieter. No one had any idea that in just a few minutes, that ordinary wet morning would turn into one of the scariest moments we'd ever face. Suddenly, the whole cafeteria shook with 4 sharp booms that echoed off the walls, so loud they rattled the trays on our tables. At first, I told myself it had to be thunder rolling in with the rain, but the screams around me made that excuse vanish fast. Panic spread like wildfire. Kids dropped their food, chairs scraped across the floor, voices rising in pure fear. Then, campus security burst through the doors, their faces tight with urgency, shouting for everyone to move, now, into the multipurpose room. Even the kids still waiting in line had to toss their lunches and run. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my ears as the storm outside seemed to fuse with the chaos inside. Every sound sharper, every second stretched, and I couldn't tell if the danger was out there or already among us. We were herded into the multi-purpose room like a single panicked wave, hundreds of voices whispering questions no one could answer. My friends and I squeezed into a corner, our sneakers squeaking on the polished floor, hearts hammering so loud it felt like everyone could hear them. The room itself is massive, with a full wall of glass that usually lets in daylight, but tonight it felt like a target. Campus security moved fast, yanking heavy curtains across every inch of that glass until the bright gray of the rainy afternoon disappeared. The air changed, thick, tense, electric, as adults posted themselves at every door. Their faces were tight and serious, eyes scanning the crowd, radios hissing softly. No one was allowed near the exits. Phones buzzed quietly in trembling hands, but nobody dared speak above a whisper. I could feel the fear settling in, a weight pressing on my chest, while outside the storm pounded the roof like a warning. Every creak of the building made us flinch, every distant sound felt closer than it should, and all we could do was wait, trapped in a room that suddenly felt much smaller than before. Eric finally worked up the nerve to ask one of the staff what was happening, and the second he came back, I could tell it wasn't good. His face was pale, eyes wide like he'd just seen something he couldn't unsee. He leaned in close so only we could hear and whispered, "You know those houses right across from TMS?" I nodded, my stomach already tightening. "There's a man over there," he said, "mentally unstable, and he's barricaded himself inside. He's threatening to kill himself and any cops who try to evict him." The words hit harder than the rain outside. Eric went on, voice shaking, telling us the man had been pacing the sidewalk earlier, staring at the school and watching kids in this strange, unsettling way. Every word made the room feel colder. Then came the part that made my heart stop. Eric said the guy was a registered sex offender. A heavy silence followed, the kind that feels alive, crawling over your skin. I could see the fear ripple through everyone around us as we realized how close danger really was. Outside those drawn curtains, just a few yards away, Someone unpredictable and armed with nothing to lose was watching our school. We were trapped inside, waiting, every minute stretching like an hour, not knowing if that man might decide to come closer. That hour felt like it stretched into forever. We were packed tight in the multipurpose room, the air heavy with a mix of sweat and fear, every shuffle of feet or crack of thunder making us jump. Time slowed until it was impossible to tell minutes from seconds. Teachers kept their voices low but firm, trying to keep us calm, while security guards stayed posted at each door, radios crackling with static that made my heart race every time. Some kids tried to whisper jokes, but the nervous laughter died quickly, swallowed by the tension. My stomach growled from missing lunch, yet I barely noticed. I was too focused on the silence outside the covered windows, imagining that unstable man only yards away. Finally, after what felt like an entire day, an announcement came over the intercom telling us the situation was under control. The room exhaled as one, but the relief was fragile. Security began escorting us out in small groups, classroom by classroom, their eyes still sharp and watchful. Walking back through the empty hallways was eerie. The usual buzz of school life was gone, replaced by a strange echo and the lingering question of how close we'd come to danger. Even when I sat back at my desk, the weight of that hour stayed with me, a reminder of how quickly an ordinary school day can turn into something you'll never forget. When I finally heard the full story from Brandy, it gave me chills all over again. She said that the year before, on Halloween night, she'd seen that same man standing at his own window, slicing his arm and scrawling words across the glass with his own blood, words that warned, "Don't come here or I'll kill you." Everyone, including Brandy, had brushed it off as some dark holiday prank. But after what happened during our lockdown, we all knew it wasn't a joke at all. It was a glimpse into someone's real pain and dangerous mind. I'm just thankful he never got inside the school, and I can only hope he's finally getting the help he so clearly needs. I'm 22 now, fresh out of college, and I just landed a job at my old high school as a computer intern working down in the basement. That basement is a maze of wires and dusty boxes, but hidden in the middle of the clutter is a surprisingly cozy little tech office with 3 big desks, 2 mini fridges, a flat-screen TV on the wall, and the kind of ice-cold air conditioning the rest of the school can only dream about. It's where all the servers hum and the real computer work gets done. I got the job thanks to 3 of my former computer teachers, who always treated me more like a friend than a student, and it felt like the perfect place to start my career. At least until a few weeks ago, when something happened that made me look at that familiar basement in a way I never imagined. I was halfway through my sandwich when my phone lit up with a number from the front office. I almost ignored it, figuring it was some tech question about a printer, but something in my gut told me to answer. The woman on the line spoke fast, her voice tight. "The school is on lockdown. Someone, possibly armed, is inside. Lock the door. Stay quiet." For a second I just sat there, the humming of the servers suddenly deafening, my heart thudding against the chair. Dave and Gary, the 2 guys I shared the office with, were both upstairs, completely unaware. I grabbed the heavy metal handle and pulled the door shut, twisting the lock until it clicked. The room felt smaller, the glow from the monitors turning the air an eerie blue. Every creak of the old pipes above sounded like a footstep. My mind raced. Should I call them? Would a ring give me away if someone was already nearby? I muted my phone and slid under the desk, every muscle tight, straining to hear over the constant buzz of machines. The basement had never felt so far from help, and with each second stretching longer than the last, the thought that someone dangerous could already be on the stairs made the air feel cold and heavy in my lungs. There wasn't much I could do except kill every bit of light and hope no one noticed me. As nice as this little office usually felt, I realized how exposed it really was. No actual door, just a wide open entry, and the heavy basement door upstairs didn't even have a working lock. My stomach twisted as I switched off the overhead lights and the soft blue glow of the monitors. The room sank into darkness so thick I could hear my own breathing echo against the walls. I set my phone on the desk and texted Gary and Dave, fingers trembling, begging them to tell me they were safe. No response. The silence stretched, broken only by the low hum of the servers, a sound that suddenly felt way too loud. Every creak of the old pipes overhead sounded like footsteps on the stairs. I crouched lower, heart hammering, wondering if I should hide deeper in the storage racks or stay put. Each second felt endless, the dark basement swallowing me whole, and the thought of someone armed just a floor away made the air heavy and sharp, like even the shadows could betray me. I sat in that silent basement with only the dim glow of my phone for comfort, every minute dragging like an hour. I tried to distract myself with a game, but my fingers kept shaking, the screen blurring as my mind replayed every sound above me. 20 minutes felt endless while I waited for a single call to say it was safe. I couldn't hear a thing from upstairs. No voices, no footsteps, just the heavy hum of the servers and my own heartbeat pounding so loud it filled the dark. The heavy door swung open with a long scraping creak that cut through the stillness like a blade. My stomach dropped. I froze halfway out of my chair, whispering a shaky, "Gary? Dave?" that died in my throat. Instead of a friendly voice, I heard fast, uneven steps pounding down the stairs, growing louder, closer, until they stopped right outside my office. My heart slammed so hard it hurt. I slid off the chair and squeezed beneath the desk, holding my breath. The door eased open, a slow hiss of metal on tile. Whoever it was didn't flip the lights, only the dark moved with them. I could hear the faint rasp of their breathing, too slow to be a friend, too heavy to be calm. Every second stretched forever as I tried not to tremble, terrified that the smallest sound would give me away. In that pitch-black room, every creak of the floor felt like a countdown. I knew if I made even the tiniest noise, if I exhaled too loud, it could be the last thing I ever did. My phone dinged, the tiny chime exploding in the dead silence like a gunshot. My whole body locked, every muscle screaming as the sound bounced off the basement walls. I bit down hard, heart hammering, but the slow, deliberate footsteps started again, this time coming straight toward the desk. Each step felt heavier, closer, until panic tore through me. I shot out from under the desk, hands up, begging into the dark for whoever it was not to hurt me. A strong grip closed around my arm and yanked me upright. My eyes met a man's face. Red plaid shirt, worn jeans, a dark red-black cap shadowing his eyes. He whispered, almost too calm, "It's okay. I'm just hiding down here too." His voice sounded casual, but my instincts screamed. I forced a shaky question. "What's happening upstairs?" He tilted his head, ignoring it, and instead asked, "Is there another way out of here?" I pointed toward the far hallway without thinking, my throat dry. "Yeah, over there." But before he could move, I found my voice again, this time sharp with fear. "Who are you?" The air between us felt heavy, like the answer would change everything. For a heartbeat, the basement went completely still, only the hum of the old lights above filling the air. Then he spoke, calm and almost friendly, saying he had just come to pick up his son when a teacher told him to hide. His words sounded normal enough, but something about the way he avoided eye contact made my skin crawl. I pulled out my phone to distract myself and finally read the text that had startled me earlier. It was from Dave. "Dude, this is crazy. Some guy with a gun shot Mr. Buckley. He's wearing a red shirt and hat. Whatever you do, don't come upstairs." My throat tightened as the letters burned into my brain. Red shirt, hat. I felt the blood drain from my face. I almost read the text aloud before the truth hit me like a punch. Slowly, I lifted my eyes to the man in front of me. Red plaid shirt, reddish black cap. His gaze met mine, and I knew he'd seen the change in my expression. A small, sharp smile flickered across his face, and in that instant, every alarm in my body went off. Panic roared through me, and without thinking, I spun toward the stairwell, every nerve screaming at me to run before he could take a single step closer. The instant the deafening gunshot ripped through the basement, the world shrank to a ringing in my ears and the metallic scream of the bullet bouncing somewhere in the dark. I didn't stop to think. I sprinted toward the stairs, every step a thunderclap in my chest, lungs burning as another echo chased me up the narrow passage. My mind was a blur of panic and disbelief. How was I still alive? Bursting through the door to the main floor felt like breaking the surface after drowning. Bright hallway lights stabbed my eyes as I stumbled forward, heart hammering. Then I saw them, police officers lined along the exits, weapons drawn, voices sharp and commanding. Before I could even shout a warning, the basement door below slammed open, and the man in the red plaid shirt stepped into their trap. He froze, eyes wide as the officers surrounded him, their shouts blending into a single roar. In that moment, the nightmare finally snapped, replaced by the shocking relief of knowing it was over. My legs shook so hard I had to lean against the wall, still hearing the echo of that gunshot, as if the darkness down there refused to let me go. In the end, there was at least one piece of relief. Mr. Buckley pulled through. Doctors said the wound would heal, and when we finally heard his voice again, it felt like a small miracle after such a night of terror. Police never shared what started the fight between him and the shooter, only that some private grudge had exploded into something unthinkable. Maybe we'll never know the real reason, and maybe that's what makes it worse. What I do know is that he didn't deserve any of it, and that single gunshot will stay with me forever. Even now, long after the sirens faded, I can still hear it in quiet rooms, a reminder of how fast life can change and how precious every calm day really is.